What is going on, Wisconsin? I got to keep remembering that it's now not just Wisconsin, but everybody across the Midwest. The majority is usually checking in from Wisconsin. We've linked up with quite a few awesome movements across the U.S. Shout out to Legalize Idaho. Um, there's so many. It's kind of, I can't recall right now. Today was a crazy day. We got Heather and Randy in the house. Sorry for the delay. We had a I'll just be frank with y'all. We had a shitty situation in the Higgy household over the last 24 hours. So your boy was in the basement with the drain snake. There was cords everywhere when I was trying to get to the drains. So had to hook up a few extra things this evening. Sorry for the delay. We got Heath in the house. What's going on, guys? Much love. Heath, we're going to be coming your way. I promise. I've got a few other things that popped up in your area. And I'm thinking I'm going to stop out there even before the bus situation. Obviously, it's the buses here. I'm hoping we're going to be 3-4 events a week. It's been an awesome last few weeks. Really excited for tonight's guest. I was just telling him in the green room, it's pretty awesome. I've seen him now. This will be 3 weeks in a row. That is just good stuff, folks. That's good juju when we're talking about trying to get things done, and just the reach of the people that are involved and want to get this done. Before we get rolling with introducing tonight's guest, want to give a huge shout out to Ignite Dispensary. Had another check in with them this week. Just love everything they're doing for the industry, going about everything right. They're testing their stuff the right way. If stuff's hot, they're taking it in the shorts and not selling it to be safe, that kind of stuff. So Ron's in the house too. What's up, Ron? Just again, much love to Ignite Dispensary. Everything they do, all the way they go about carrying themselves in this industry. And really appreciate them being a part of the movement to legalize Wisconsin. Javin's in the house. What's up, man? Thank you for swinging by. Much love coming your way as well. So before I just keep rambling on, we're going to take as much time as we can with our awesome guest this evening. He is running for office because we need people like him. I can't believe the amount of people I met over the last few days who have spoken so highly of him. I mean, I can believe it, right? But it's just really cool that I just feel like things are starting to move in a great direction. And having met him, and then just the people that I've ran into over the last few weeks, and it's just been an awesome couple of weeks. I think you guys can see that on the page, the events. We got to just keep this thing rolling. So let's get him in here. Mr. Hysell, how we doing, sir?
Hey, how you doing, Bobby? Good to see you.
Very good, very good. Do you agree? We can maybe just once a week if something's popping. We're talking cannabis. Let's
Absolutely.
go.
I'm glad you do this podcast. It's great.
Appreciate that. Absolutely. I'm really glad that you took the time to join us and talk to the folks. I think you've got a really awesome journey that you've been on to get to where you are, and I think that is something that we're really trying to learn how to do more of. Not that you were maybe necessarily, and I want you to kind of share your journey, so I'm gonna get to that, but just I appreciate you and what it took for you to get here today. I'm gonna let you go. I'm just so excited. We're gonna let you do your thing. Let me pull up the notes here real quick because I think this will kind of break down the best way to get across your journey. Can you tell us? You've got some background in law. Can you tell us what initially inspired you to pursue a career in law, Andrew, and how that has influenced your approach to advocacy work?
Yeah, sure. It's a really good question. So I went to my undergrad was at Carroll University. Actually, at the time it was called Carroll College, and never thought I would go to law school. Honestly,
Sure.
I
Okay.
got into politics. Was working here in Wisconsin in the state legislature, working on some state races here. Ended up doing some national races in Maine and Washington State, and wound up in Washington D.C. And so the way that I came to go to law school was I was working as a legislative aide for a congressman from Maine, Congressman Tom Allen, and I just got to know so many amazing people, staff members, and they seem to all have law degrees. And what I realized is that when you make policy and you advocate for policy, having a law degree is very, very valuable. You can get into the details much more so than if you don't have one.
Sure.
And so I actually practiced for a few years after law school, but I used it to get into advocacy. I used it for public policy purposes primarily.
Sure. Well, that makes a lot of sense. as someone who was a very outside, and I still have, I'm definitely not like the person that should be educating people on how politics work. Just being pretty new to trying to understand like how important language is when it's not just, hey, we're going to legalize. It's like, what's the details of the bill? And then it's not just wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. It's,
Yeah.
you don't want to get sued. And oh my gosh, it's pretty crazy looking over some other states that have legalized, trying to like look at their bills and compare them. And so I can definitely see where a law degree would be helpful to understand. Is that what a lot of it comes down to is, as a politician, whatever you may be working on, you're always essentially using law to, even if you're like allocating funds to somewhere, I'm assuming there's paperwork, and it's not just I wrote a deal and gave it to a school, now they can get the money. We need to make sure we fill that thing out right so we don't get sued. Is that really kind of what that comes down to?
Yeah, I mean that it's like I'm trying to think of a good analogy. It's like if you're going to build an app, you need somebody who knows how to do the coding, and
Yeah,
it
okay, yep,
and if you have an
that's
understanding,
perfect. Okay, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah. So,
awesome.
so if you have an
Great way to put
understanding
it.
of the coding, you can have more of a. You can be more clear. It just helps the process. In Minnesota, didn't they have some issue where the Republican legislature didn't realize what they were doing when
Yep.
they added language?
Yeah,
Good
yeah, yeah.
example of people that maybe should have gone to law school. I don't
Sure.
know.
Sure. Well, and I think though that well, yes, 100%. And then I think what you're referring to is specifically not catching the law, but I would think that when it comes to cannabis and like Delta 8 and Delta 9, I feel like for that bill to be truly like, okay, did we check all our, you would need like the law guy like yourself, you would need like a biologist who understands the plants and the compounds and the derivatives and how you extract, like, so you're really kind of, I don't want to make excuses as why legalization takes so long, but I can see, because especially with our state, right, they're not even, it seems like half of the folks in the office are not even taking it seriously. But even once you get that ball rolling, I think it's going to be a lengthy process if it's done right, right? Like we want to try to, check as many boxes as we can on the first attempt. And obviously, you understand that things aren't going to be perfect. But when the Republicans are pushing the pill bill and they're like, hey, we know it's not perfect, but let's get something passed. Like, can't be that jacked up, right? Like,
Right,
so.
exactly. Yeah.
Anyways, hey, what's up, Ken? Thanks for swinging by. Jeremiah's here too. Appreciate y'all. So yeah, it sounds like you've had a long career advocating for various causes, as we've discussed personally, from childhood literacy to healthcare reform. What sparked your interest in public policy? It was hanging out, but when was it kind of like, this is something I want to help with? Or when did you kind of feel, did you piece together like this might be what I was made to do? Is that kind of how that worked for you? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just have always felt a desire to help others, and public policy, when done right, really helps people. Whether you help kids learn how to read, whether you pass policies to, reduce, prevent diseases like, reducing children's use of tobacco, obviously reduces the number of cancer deaths down the line and improves outcomes. I just have always felt that we need policies that help people, and I've always
Awesome.
felt compelled to work on them.
That's awesome. And I think because too, it can feel like sometimes um, that it feels like, at least lately, just for me, it feels like Wisconsin has been very, the division between the parties has really caused it to, it feels like politics and what they are there to do has lost the vision, which in my opinion is kind of what you were saying. How do we help the people? How do we, times are ever changing. What do we change to make things better in this state? And I feel like it's just turned into such a back and forth pointing, and obviously it doesn't help when you don't have fair maps and that kind of stuff, or just the kind of current setup we have. But I really appreciate that your understanding using that to try to run and get into office, because I think we need more of that. Just your understanding of what you're supposed to be doing in that office. I feel like you're gonna stand your ground, like, hey guys, no, let's we're gonna figure something out. We're not just gonna keep saying we can't. I mean, you're not gonna go in there and you're not gonna be Moses necessarily, but I feel like you're gonna really try to be that buffer and the common sense approach, right? Is that what I'm?
I am not disagreeing with you, including the fact that I'm not Moses, Bobby.
Fair, fair. And could you touch on a little bit about what you did with the children? That sounded really cool. With the literacy. Just
Yeah, I know. I worked for Save the Children United States programs. Save the Children's around the world. In the U.S., they focus on trying to help low-income kids that live specifically in rural communities. So I'd go into states. A lot of them were pretty Republican states, and I would meet with legislators and governors and other people and advocate for funds to put literacy programs in schools.
okay.
Because these kids couldn't afford tutors. They couldn't afford private tutors.
Gotcha.
So we tried to get the state to fund tutors that they could basically benefit from. And then it helps break the cycle of poverty. If you can read proficiently by the third grade, you're 3 times more likely to graduate from high school on time.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's like prevention.
Yeah.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Kind of thing.
Awesome. Very cool, man. We had a couple of people that asked questions when I was kind of giving your backstory. And you had advocated for some tobacco control policies. What are some challenges that you face while advocating for tobacco control policies? And how do you think that experience might help you prepare with your future advocacy work?
Big obstacle to trying to reduce tobacco use with kids was there was an industry built around marketing to kids and
Sure.
had been operating for decades. And they had a lot of lobbyists. They had a lot of campaign contributions. So we'd go into states and we would try to pass bills, and there would be these huge lobby efforts against us. And so that was the big obstacle I faced on that issue.
Sure.
But we overcame it. And today, the number of kids who smoke cigarettes and use chewing tobacco has dropped and the number of adults even has dropped dramatically. So it's been pretty.
That's awesome. And I feel like that will definitely prepare you for Big Canada trying to throw their weight around too. So,
I always get nervous when the big guys start doing stuff, because you always have to just make sure you
check the
you realize
in that law, the bill, and
they get influence.
Sure.
They help influence.
Exactly. And then when did things kind of shift where you became involved in cannabis reform efforts, and what led you to support legalization?
Yeah, it's a great question, Bobby. And I think when we first talked, this is what kind of spurred this idea that I come on the show, because what was really cool for me is that I got into this kind of from the perspective of the criminal justice side of it. I became knowledgeable and aware that prohibition of cannabis was being used against communities of color and low-income communities disproportionately. And I've done some work with criminal justice as an attorney, and in Wisconsin, for example, there was a report that showed African Americans were 3 times more likely to be arrested for cannabis than whites, even though they use it about the same rates. And to me, anytime there's a systemic issue or problem that's creating this kind of an outcome, you need to change it. Again, you want policy to help people. You don't want it in there hurting people. So I basically started working on those referenda back in 2018 because I wanted to, I wanted fairness in the justice system. And I was like, this isn't fair. This is not fair. So let's change these policies. And the way we can do it is we can get voters to come out and vote for it. And then ideally, the legislature will listen to them and pass these, make these changes.
Sure. Well, and you bring up a good point too, because, you hit on so many. This is what's so cool is you have so many different kind of avenues that you can help with, because I feel like, a concern that people have, or just in general, is how do you go about it the right way? And I think it was you, or it was another gentleman that was on the same panel with you, but I had never really even thought about it until it was discussed. And that's where it's like, oh my gosh, like you really need to focus your efforts, because it's great to say, hey, we want to give back, and by doing that, and to fix the wrongs, and to offer, let's say priority to business licenses, right? But like it was discussed, that is not something that, a lot of people should be jumping at in general. It's a ton of work. So it's not necessarily like, I feel like you're touching such a small portion of the damage. Your damage control is not actually doing that much damage control. Does that make sense? As far as, you're giving opportunity, but what is the realistic chances that somebody's going to be like, oh yeah, this is great. Like, it's not like you're giving them the money to start the business. You're not giving them the product. That is a lot of work, because that's what most states seem to do, is like the social equity and giving priority to dispensary licenses. Do you feel like it should probably be, or it should be something other more than that, or different than that, or what are your kind of stances on what might be the best way on that topic?
You mean on addressing the equity when you legalize?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, you raise a good point, which is I've just observed a lot of states as they try to implement equity initiatives, and there's been a lot of mistakes made.
yeah,
And I'm not faulting people. It's just they kind of come up with an idea and a policy, and they craft it and they put it into place, and then it doesn't work out like they intended it to.
sure.
I definitely think we can look at like states around us and learn from what they've tried and some of the mistakes they've made.
Sure. No, that's a great approach, I think. Could you share, where do we have here? Could you share your experience working with the Wisconsin Justice Initiative to place cannabis related ballot initiatives across the state? I understand you had a great deal to do with some ballot initiatives across the state.
Yeah, I just traveled around. I mean, I contacted county supervisors who were interested in putting these on the ballot, gave them education, information, they would have a hearing, you would essentially have a committee hearing, and then they would put it on before the full county board to vote on. So I'd be at those meetings and around the state, and we got like 16 on the ballot total. So a lot of driving, meet a lot of people, got to know a lot of county supervisors who do really important work, by the way. Anybody who knows a county supervisor is one, they do really important work in our states. County's government here is very robust in Wisconsin. But yeah, I got to hear what I thought was most pivotal for me, and what really kind of converted me into an advocate for legalization was listening to the diverse group of local people, not associated with any business interest, just regular people, seniors, veterans, just people in suits, business people in suits, all talking about how they wanted legalization, either for medicinal purposes, recreational, or both. And when I saw these like regular Wisconsin people in all these different communities saying this, I stopped and I thought, wow. So not only is this is the system set up in a way that prohibition hurts people through a criminal justice system that is not balanced, but it's also like depriving people of something that they want. And these are reasonable, rational people. And I'm just kind of like, and then I started to see this as more of like, yeah, it's kind of like a freedom issue. so then I became a full supporter of legalization. That's kind of what brought me over. Never like I would never call myself as a real avid user or anything of it. I was won over by what I saw. And
Sure. Well, and I think that's so neat, because when you were explaining that earlier, that's how it started for me. Like, I enjoyed cannabis with end of the night, just helping with, I take Adderall during the day to help battle ADHD, which has its ups and downs because I can focus, but sometimes it's, especially at the end of the night, it's hard to shut that down sometimes. And that's where cannabis had always been awesome for me. So it was something that I used from time to time. And but once I got into the industry, it was more so just for the change of pace, just to not be working at a dealership and selling bad news for a living. I thought, hey, let's try running a couple of these stores, and really enjoyed it, but quickly realized and got super passionate about it once I saw the folks coming in and what they were seeking relief of. And yeah, it just was moving. Like, I still get the hairs move on the back of my neck when I talk about it, because like there was just so many people coming in, and like, my doctor can't give me any more Vicodin, or they want to put me on more Xanax and I don't want to, or I was on meth for 13 years and this makes it so I don't have to do that. Like, that's awesome, so
yeah.
I think it's neat that you were moved by that. Again, not so much even for your personal use or anything of that matter, right? Because that could be the approach too. Like, hey, I want to do this for me. I want to feel safer using it. But I think it's really neat that you've come around to want to help those folks, which is really neat. We've got What do we got here? Mitch, many folks would think our stores are full of younger people looking to get high, but that couldn't be further from the truth. People just want a less addictive and inebriating alternative. That's 100% what I saw as well, Mitch. Mitch with Alleviate Wellness. Shout out to him. Better open hemp dispensary now. Should look into it. Yes. Let's see what we had up next here. And actually, maybe you would know something on this, Andrew, because we get asked this quite a bit, and I always kind of give my guesstimates of how politics or things work in Wisconsin. I get a lot of times what I thought it was on the ballot. I thought we voted to legalize it. I've come to understand it was more of like a data polling that these questions were on ballots. Is that correct? It was to like see where the stance was at the time. It was not a binding referendum. Is that, or how do I, well, help me out, Andrew. How do I say
Sorry,
that
I don't mean to leave
correctly?
you hanging here. I'm just waiting.
No, you're good. Yeah, you're trying to see how far down this rabbit hole I can go. Like, what's he going to say next?
No, good. No, it's all good. No, there's this. So unlike many states, we don't have the voter spurred initiative. Like voters can't go out and get signatures and get a question on the ballot like they can in Michigan or California. We did at the county level have what was known as an advisory referendum, and you could get these on the ballot. And the idea was to kind of let the legislature know what people wanted.
Sure.
Of course, here in Wisconsin, the legislature didn't really seem to care what people wanted because we had over 1 million people in 2018 voting statewide for legalization, and they killed Evers' bill when he proposed it in his budget. They stripped it out. What happened was these referenda, even though they're advisory, get people out to vote, and I think the Republicans saw that as a problem, so they actually eliminated them. They're no longer an option in Wisconsin.
Gotcha.
So,
that's interesting.
There you go. There you go. Hey.
No, so that now I won't retain all that, but I appreciate now that I have a better understanding. But now I feel like this is what happened in Florida, and just me and you talking not about cannabis legalization. If we're in a state and there is something that is so obviously supported and the politicians can't figure out a way to help that, isn't there some kind of route that citizens can go? I know it's not the ballot initiative, but not directly, but isn't there like, I've heard a couple times about ledge council. I don't know if that, or like, I feel like I've heard so many different and long, like, well, you might be able to, is there not just like something other than waiting for something to show up on the ballot because they decide to or pass something?
So in Wisconsin, there's good news. Bobby, I think the good news is we have fair maps. So we had a Supreme Court race, 2023, elected Janet Justice Protasewicz, and the first case filed was on the maps. And these maps were basically preventing legalization because these maps were allowing the House to be 2/3 Republican, even though the state's basically 50-50. And because Robin Vos, who's the speaker, didn't have to really worry about anybody challenging his authority, he just shut it down. No legalization. We got new maps because the Supreme Court ruled our maps unconstitutional gerrymanders. So we got new maps. Now we got a chance to elect a Democratic majority. But even if we come close, we're going to have a situation where they can't just ignore us. And I know we're already looking at legislation, drafting it for next year. So there is hope in the future. It's just taking longer because we don't have that option like other states do for citizens to just go out and make it happen separate from the legislature through an initiative process. But it's we're moving forward, and I think that's what's really exciting, especially if we get a majority. I feel very certain we will have a bill pass the House. If we have a Democratic majority, we will pass it out of the House.
Awesome.
I will
and I think that would be huge for a first step, and B, like it's at such a standstill right now. At least then you can really put the ball in the court of if the Senate doesn't pass it. I would hope we could get some answers as to I feel like they've been able to hide behind this. It's not even on the table. So we tried with our pill bill, but you didn't want it. Sorry. Well, we ain't got time to figure out anything else. We're gonna go on vacation. So. I felt that.
No, I think you're right, and I think there are Republicans who will support it once the leadership kind of like loses the iron grip there will be some Republicans that come out and support it because heck, everyone wants it. It's not just Democrats.
Exactly. Nope, felt that. We're going to pull back 2 questions that had popped up here. Javin says, Andrew, what do you think of getting medicinal passed first? What's your take on that one?
My take is we go for full adult legalization. And if we end of the day, we pass, let's say we do have a majority in the House of Dems, we pass it out. The Senate's like, no, no, no. Well, then we sit down and come up with a compromise. What would that be? Maybe it'd be a medicinal bill.
Okay. Nope. I think that's an awesome approach. I think that makes the most sense. And it is interesting, though, because even when I started going to the Capitol and meeting with, because my thought process was it seems like most of the Democrats support it. So I went to meet with Republicans, and I thought it was going to be, hey, guys, here's how you get some votes. Quit being knuckleheads on this topic and making it a once, if you are a single issue voter on this topic, you don't have many choices for Republicans. Shout out to Nate and Appleton. Great dude out there who's a Republican who supports it. But it just was like, oh no, I don't really think it's any worse. If anything, it's probably safer than drinking. Okay, well then why the hell aren't we doing something about it? You can't just keep blaming because there's some old heads around that have been doing things a certain way. Like, okay, but you still work for the people, right? Like, I don't know. It was just
yes, you do. Yes, you do. They're your boss. The people are your boss.
Right. Sarah had a question. I kind of asked a question. I get low income, but domestic violence is huge here, and it sucks. As a cannabis smoker, I was denied help. That is not good to hear. And that's where I feel like, I don't know exactly the best way to break down the extra taxes that would come from legalization, but I feel like it should definitely be focused on the people and somehow making sure it's not somehow just working its way to somebody's retirement fund somewhere. Is that kind of your take too, Andrew, or what are your thoughts on how you figure out how to kind of best utilize that?
Yeah, we've seen in other states, if they tax it too much, it actually is counterproductive and it creates opportunities for a illicit market. California is dealing with that. Michigan is dealing with that. It's you got to look at it and just be like, I mean, I think in Minnesota they've actually kind of struck a nice medium where they tax it, but it's not like ridiculous.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think that's something we look at. Minnesota.
The way to go about it. Well, and I think so. Like Michigan compared to Illinois is like night and day.
I know Michigan's. That's true. Right. But I mean, Michigan's got an issue.
They still charge. They do like sales tax and excess tax.
The issue Michigan has is they have this medical market that exists parallel to this. They have a highly regulated adult use market, and they have a very low regulated medical market. So people in the medical market are able to it's almost like they have two different systems. You're right. Illinois charges a lot in tax. It's pretty crazy.
Okay. No, I believe that.
Yeah.
Make a shirt that has Wisconsin on it and says forward on legalization of cannabis. I like that idea. And actually, I'll let you guys in on a little thing here on Bobby Beans. So I'm working on the details, but essentially going to be, it's not my own shop, but I'm going to be like a contractor of an apparel and promotion shop. So I will be working with local businesses across the state. Whether, I feel like I've got a lot of great connections and I'm not looking to make a ton of money, but I do have a kid now. So I got to figure out a little side hustle. So I'm going to be slinging shirts. They're top-notch quality. We're going to be launching the Let's Legalize Wisconsin ones on Friday, the 2-week period to get those ordered. And you just want to wear this sweater. Like it's that kind of the hoodie sweater, not these ones that we were getting made. They, start balling up and all that stuff. And just really excited to also open up the platform of shirts to Let's Legalize Wisconsin and these awesome people with a million ideas and see what kind of creative swag we can roll out over the coming months and years. So really looking forward to that. So if you got a business or anyone, I'm going to have some kind of crazy promo because I'm just looking to make the connections and get stuff sold. So, I get the small chunk, but that's fine because I feel like I can reach a shit ton of people. So if you know anyone looking for shirts or any sweaters, that kind of stuff, if you refer them to me, however many they order, I'll get you an Amazon gift card for like $1 per piece they order. I'm going to figure out something. I want to hook you people up. I want to hook the businesses up. Let's go. I'm just super excited. All right, back on track, Andrew. Quit letting me go off here.
No, that was
He just
good.
sits back too. Like, let's see how long he goes. Beans, come on, Beans. He saw me at the panel. He knows what he's dealing with. He's awesome. Let's see here. As a small business owner, how do you view the economic opportunities that cannabis legalization could provide for Wisconsin? Kind of like we were talking about there.
I mean, I would just say I think we can see them when we cross over the border. There's a lot of opportunities to grow, opportunities to process, opportunities to sell. I mean, there will just be a lot of opportunities for Wisconsin residents to participate in the marketplace.
Well, even if we just look at it from that standpoint, like you're saying, not even the tax, like or that kind of stuff, like the like just Menominee alone. There's got to be how many people employed for the cannabis industry. You got, I think, 6 dispensaries now. Every time I go in there, it's packed with at least 6 employees. That one place is now up to 15 registers. And then you got to have multiple shifts. I can't imagine, Andrew, what these places look like as far as like how you get product moved. And like, it's got to bring a lot of jobs. And something that I've noticed when I go to these dispensaries is a lot of the people working in them, they come from all kind of like how we were talking about the people that were coming into the stores to seek relief. Legitimately, people are seeking relief from the corporatized, crazy workforce out there now I sell weed. Like, I love talking to people. I know the product, so I want to help them find what they need, that kind of stuff. Like, I think it would, it might not necessarily be the highest paying job, but I could see, if I was still stuck at Ford and I could go work at a dispensary, just like I did, I would jump at it and take a little less money because I'm going to be happy. So I think it would actually bring quite a bit of awesomeness just with those jobs and the amount of people that want to learn how to grow and the amount of processing, like you said, that kind of stuff. Third-party testing, exactly. Emily says, could we lower property taxes in the state if we become legal? My property taxes have been jacked up the last 2 years. Hey, I found out when we got fiber internet, that somehow raised our value or something. I don't know, something weird. I'm all over the place here. Javin says, want to be weed, Bobby. There you go. Bud tenders make like 20 plus starting. Yeah, that's very respectable. 20 plus starting. I would take that.
Can I respond to what Emily just said about property taxes? Because she actually really was a good point. So there's, over the past 30 years, there's been this shift in Wisconsin that's causing your property taxes to go up. They're like at the state level, they've been reducing how much money they send to localities, schools, and your local government. And so what's happened is the local communities like Madison's got a referendum, some Prairie's got a referendum for operating costs for schools. It's like, and we're sitting on $5 billion of a surplus.
I'm going to say
so like, just get ready, because when you start hearing about, we're going to give you a tax cut at the state level. Meanwhile, we're going to force your local government to jack up your property tax. It doesn't make any sense.
What do most states sit on? I feel like 5.5 is a crap ton. Do we know?
It's because they're, it's a lot. I mean, for the size of our budget, it's like a lot. And it's a lot when you're forcing all these schools to like come out with a little tin can asking for money every year. I mean,
right.
No way to run a state. I mean, we got to fix that. So sorry you're going through that with your property taxes, but a lot of people are,
I agree with you there. Yeah. What else we got rolling here, boss? We've got, this is an awesome question we had asked or submitted. What role do you believe veterans could play in advancing the case for medical cannabis? And how does your work on veterans' mental health tie into this, if it does?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with this program here in Wisconsin called the Veterans Outreach and Recovery Program, VORP, they call it. Basically, it's this new way of doing it's a community-based approach for public health, which is really successful because you got needs, especially in rural areas, for mental health, that veterans, they're reticent to come forward because of the stigma around mental health. They may not know there's services available for them. When you're depressed or suicidal or something like that, you don't necessarily even think of seeking help. So the VORP program has people stationed around the state going to like gas stations and local restaurants and finding veterans in need and helping them. And I would just say my work in that area has opened my eyes to the damage that opioids have done to veterans. There was a big overdose. There was a big story about an overdose in 2015 of a guy named Jason Simkuski at the Toma VA. And they did an investigation after his overdose and found out that there were overprescribing opioids there. They would just, you'd come in as a veteran with PTSD and they would just give you a bunch of drugs. And as a result of that, Tammy Baldwin passed a law that basically reduced the amount of opioids that VAs prescribe. So I think what we see with cannabis is it's one of many things that people use as an alternative to opioids. Some people use yoga, some people use talk therapy, some people find relief with cannabis. It's a legitimate thing that people use, and I think it's another one of the many reasons why we need to legalize it.
Sure. Oh, that's awesome, and that's again, that's what this is really about. I feel like the majority of people who use cannabis in Wisconsin have a safe way figured out. And now, granted, you could still get stopped by the cops and that kind of thing. But I feel like the majority of folks have figured out, okay, I run here on the weekend, or I go there, or I know this guy. Where the true passion for legalization is getting that safe access, for the people who don't know about cannabis yet, which is still probably a decent amount of folks, but then B, also the folks who I feel like there's so many government programs and even if you're serving or that kind of, it's like, oh, you can't have drugs in your system. It's like cannabis is not the same as these other drugs. It needs to be, that's where the biggest push for legalization to me comes from, is that changes things from it's this terrible thing that people are closetly doing to, okay, this is now acceptable, just like drinking. And then you start seeing that effects on not us, but those people who are currently suffering from it. So that's awesome that you are already working to help people that are struggling in different ways as well. So you're a pretty cool dude, Andrew. Not gonna lie, pretty cool dude.
Well, Bobby, you're cool too. I mean,
we're both cool, bro. No.
Yeah. So much coolness on this podcast. So.
Yeah, right. Somebody just sent me an article. So it looks like Michigan had a $9 billion surplus in 2024, but the state is planning to spend nearly all of it, leaving only $250 million in reserve for the next fiscal year. So I guess we'll see what happens over there. Sounds like maybe they had a similar situation where they're just kind of sitting on it. But yeah, why wouldn't we spend that on improving? Like, what is this? Who's got the most money contest sitting there that no one's using? It seems really weird.
It is weird. It's very weird. So hopefully we can fix that. That's one of my goals.
Right. Let's go.
Yeah.
Moving along here, boss. We got a couple more questions. What do we have here? How would you balance the need for cannabis reform with your broader policy goals if elected to Wisconsin Assembly?
I would balance it. I mean, it's one of my priorities. So it'd be in the mix. There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to work on. I feel like we've been trying to do. I think Melissa Agard first introduced her bill in 2015. So we're coming on 10 years.
Yeah,
10 years of introducing legislation. So I think it's time. So
yeah. Get the one that's been around for a while. Kind of get that one moving, and then see where the next thing that pops up is. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me. What specific strategies do you plan to use in working with Republican legislators to build bipartisan support for cannabis legalization?
Good question. I mean, there are Republicans that already want it. So I think we just changed the leadership in the House, which we can do if we elect a majority of Democrats, and then we just collaborate. I mean, there's no reason to shove it down anybody's throat. Let's sit at the table and figure out, Republicans want small business. They want to see economic development. So let's sit down and figure out how to do it together. I'm on board with that.
Awesome. I think that's a great approach. Why do you believe now is the right time for Wisconsin to join neighboring states in legalizing cannabis? If we're not just looking at it from, the standpoint of, hopefully we can flip the house and or I guess why is the time now? I guess that I feel like we've already kind of touched on that.
Because
we've been waiting so long.
Yeah.
You're
exactly.
Good. But here we go. We touched on that one too. Wow. We did a fantastic job.
Yeah, you're asking.
I don't know if it was the guy who was interviewing you or you, Andrew, but
no, it's you.
As far as the questions we had come across, I think we killed that. In the comment section, did anybody have any questions? Again, Andrew's going to be running what I had seen it on the map, but I'm not super familiar with Madison. what
Sure.
exactly is kind of the area where if people are located, they'll be seeing you on the ballot?
Yeah,
District 48?
it's Assembly District 48. It includes about 25% of it's the east side of Madison. It's like East Town Mall area, all the way down to Door Creek. And then it goes all the way up, includes the entire city of Sun Prairie, town of Sun Prairie, and then goes up north to Bristol and the edge of Columbus.
Okay. So actually that's cool, because what I'm gonna do is, I now finally learned how to like chop up the podcast so we get a lot of views on the smaller clips.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna make a little and then you can also put where you want those clips to show up. So we are gonna target that area just so people who are voting in that area can see one of the people that are on the candidate or on the ballot. I think this is really neat to be able to talk to somebody and not have this. And most folks don't, which I was really surprised. But if some of them were like, "Well, I'm not going live. Whoa, I won't say anything live." Like, I just appreciate your realness, you sharing your background, and being an open person of running for office. I feel like that's something that. Oh man, if I see another political ad or flyer. Yesterday I had 6 flyers in the mailbox,
Really?
two things tied to the front door with rubber bands, and 3 things tied to the side door with rubber bands. I already voted. So,
Wow, that's amazing.
and my wife too. So,
Yeah.
where does this come from, Andrew? Where? And I just saw like Hubdy was getting outspent by Baldwin, so he just took out a loan from himself or did something with $7 million. What? What? Am I missing something, Andrew? How does it come this? And I even get the emails, and I get them from Harris and I get them from Trump every day, and they both are like, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna lose. If you want us to watch your children, or you want your kids to grow up, we need this money now. We need this now." Like, I can't even imagine how much money is actually spent on this nonsense. What is your take on that? That's something I have for you.
Well, people want to win, and so that they're spending money to try to convince you. But it really suggests something that's important about what you do, which is you vote. And because you vote, your opinion really matters. That's why they're sending all this stuff to you. It's almost like you're being punished for being a good citizen. But don't stop voting. I just think, again, your opinion matters when you vote. And I think anyone listening to this podcast understand that you have a lot of power through your vote, and people will come to you and they'll talk to you. They'll knock on your door. They'll ask for your input if you vote. So do it, please.
No, absolutely. And I will, I've voted split ticket for quite a few elections now. I tried to take people for their worth, just, I feel like a lot of politics today is just this puppetry of, like, I don't know, a lot of it just makes me cringe, especially when all you do is say what the other person doesn't do or does wrong. Like, I don't know, I probably go about it a lot differently than some folks, and I try to keep everything as bipartisan as I can, and especially like if I meet somebody and you vote for whoever, I don't care. I will treat you with the same amount of respect as the next person, and it really hurts me that that's not how it is for some folks. That it's, if you don't vote for Trump, screw you. If you don't vote for Kamala, folks. No one votes a certain way to piss off somebody else at heart, and somehow that has changed to this: if you don't vote with me, you're wrong. Screw you. I'm glad to see some of that starting to change on the page, because I'm trying to keep that at bay in the comment section. Going to the Walsh rally really got some folks jazzed up. But as I said, I have reached out to the Trump campaign. I've reached out to JD Vance. I've reached out to any Republican you can think of. Wisconsin, let's legalize Wisconsin. We'll go to any event that will have us, especially if they want to give us a press pass. That was way cool to be able to do. But again, we are trying to keep the people together, and don't let this division happen. But in Wisconsin, I do think we need to focus on flipping the House to get some kind of fairness back into the state. And I didn't want to do this, but I do think we need to focus on flipping that House. Like, folks listening tonight, make sure you let your friends know the importance of, if that House flips, as far as bringing balance to politics in Wisconsin. You can vote split ticket. You can vote everybody else. And And again, I shouldn't be giving advice on how to vote. I always said I would never do that. But it's super important in reality to get some kind of fairness to stop this madness of one person being in control right now of anything moving forward in the state. And if he doesn't like it, it doesn't happen. So that's just my 2 cents. I'll probably have to delete that clip, but I like to keep it as real as I can, and that's just something I've come across. So
No, that was good, man. You got me. I'm
right
on board
on.
with the Bobby
Are you
Beans
going to vote? Are you going
initiative.
to?
Yeah.
Did you get your vote in yet? Or are you going to vote, Andrew?
Yeah, I definitely got to
Okay,
vote.
cool. Just making sure.
So I want to tell you one thing that you made me think of when you were talking about, you are bipartisan, and that's great. I think cannabis legalization, they sometimes say like there's these things called wedge issues.
Yeah.
And when they say a wedge issue, it's meant to be an issue that divides people. It's like, oh, we're going to say this, we know some people will hate this and some people will like this. So we're going to use this issue to break these people up. I think cannabis legalization is a great unifying issue. It's the opposite of a wedge issue. It brings people together. And I think that's great that you advocate for it. I know that you've been doing that in the state legislature. You've been doing that through your podcast and your advocacy. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely, Andrew. I appreciate it. And actually, since we're kind of on the same page of this, I should I'm gonna put you on the spot, Andrew. Yeah. When we get the bus, if for some reason we can't park in front of the Capitol, can I use your parking spot to park the bus?
If it fits.
Okay. Well,
I have no idea what parking spot.
Hey, you know the law, Andrew. Can you look into the law so that let's see if we get the bus. But because from the time the bus gets secured funding, crowdsourced to the time it shows up, I am going to reach out to you because I do need to understand the Madison law on a parking spot in a vehicle if the vehicle doesn't fit. Like, I can make it where it's like my home if I need it to be a house. I'll take the wheels off. I'll put it on jack stands. Is it then a house so you can't make me move? Whatever. I might need your help, Andrew, so just giving you a heads up.
Hey, listen, I'll do what I can. Just so you know that we got this new bus route that just started, the articulated bus. It's super fast, and you can throw a lot of people on there.
That's like in-town type thing, or does it go to like different bigger cities around?
No. It's in Madison, but if you do a park and ride, you can load up a bunch of people on this bus, and it's got its own dedicated lane down East Wash. It's kind of wild.
Can somebody just hang out on the bus if they pay for a pass?
Maybe.
That's a good question. I might have to look into that. That might be a good way to get a bus is talk to people on a different bus and be like, hey.
Yeah, you could.
How about a weed bus?
Bring your shirts, yeah.
Oh, did I show you the shirts?
No, not yet.
Hang on. Well, I got you guys. We're going to, guys, get ready to punch in a number with the shirt that you like the most. My brain has been overpowered with graphic design the last couple days before we had all of our plumbing fun. Spent a lot of time down here in the compound. So let's pull up the shirts that we're working on. Share screen real quick. This will only take a minute, and we'll let you get back to your evening there, good sir. All right. So this was the first design, and things got a lot cooler. But so again, the crowdsourcing works. You donate so much towards the cause, you get a shirt. You donate so much, you get a hoodie, you get a VIP pass. There'll be different tiers. But I want the hoodie or the design on the shirt and the hoodie to be something that really jumps out at people, and they want to make that purchase. So these were the first couple ones. But then now when you see the numbers, when you see the one that's your favorite, if you can drop that number in the comments, I want to see what people are thinking. So Blunt Force, again, is the name of the bus. So obviously that's incorporated in our design. So here we got it kind of focused on the green and gold, very close to Packer colors, but one numeral off. So there's number one. I like this because it shows the little bus and then kind of the pot leaf behind it. I don't know, just kind of messing with that. So that's number two. Number three takes the bus out, makes the pot leaf a little bigger. I don't know. I couldn't really. I got so many ideas, Andrew. So we just started messing with them. Here's the pot leaf bigger, but it still has a bus on it. We got 5 is basically 4. Don't ask what happened there. This one I thought was kind of cool, though. It kind of looks like in the middle of the bus, it kind of looks like the sun, doesn't it? Like coming up.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's 6. 7 is a little more just loud. And then 8 is a little more not so loud with the cannabis. So once I was going I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting really loud. And I was like, what if we went but now I see that the F needs to move over a little bit on this one. But Andrew, what's your favorite one out of this lineup, man?
I think you got to have the leaf, the marijuana leaf on it.
right?
Yeah.
So,
I'd go
like,
with
but is
those.
that too small with the leaf?
I think it's too small. I think
Okay.
you gotta kind of hit people in the face with it a little bit.
Okay. So
Yeah,
Emily
there you
says
go.
3.
Yeah, that's pretty good. But I
Yeah.
like the bus too, though. The bus looks kind of cool. So.
Right. I think it might be one of these two. I think it's something, and I'm going to mess with it here once we get our creative drinks flowing for the evening. We got 3. Pamela says 6. Javin says 4, 5, or 8. Okay, so he's on the same bus with us. Hey, same bus. He says 3. Yeah, I still like 3 too. Cool. I'm gonna mess with it. Notice how only 3 people are watching on YouTube. Hee hee. Yeah, dude, YouTube's really weird, and Instagram, because Instagram tracks. Well, we ain't got to talk about that. We gotta let Andrew get. He's got shit to do. He's running for office. I think we could use a guy like this. Again, I try to stay bipartisan, but I also keep it super real. There is, and especially when I was explaining how I vote, this is me personally, not telling anybody else how they have to vote or how they should vote. And I support you however you vote because that is your belief. I don't think you would vote for a candidate out of spite. Like, I feel like you truly, whatever you got going on, you think you're doing the right thing. So I respect who you vote for. But when you get somebody real like this and somebody who's just been a part of, helping people and, just, I don't know, dude, good stuff. I think if we had a bunch of you in office, things would look a lot different in this state. So much love to what you're trying to do and spread. Hopefully, if there is anything I can ever do for you, Andrew, please let me know. As far as just helping get any kind of word out on what you're trying to get done or anything like that. I just really appreciate folks like you, especially trying to get into office and try to make things a little more common sense.
And thank you again, Bobby, for like everything you do on this issue. Like, I mean, the reason I'm on this show is because you're out there pounding the pavement, doing presentations, doing festivals, doing podcasts. So thanks for doing this, and thanks for everybody who's watching, because you guys are advocates too, and it's all making a difference.
Yep. Nope, they really are, and because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for them. If I was doing podcasts and I wasn't live, I wouldn't be here. So I love these guys. It's awesome to get a chance to meet them. And Andrew, you'll be the first official person invited to. So I'm not holding you that you have to go, but I want you to be the first to receive the invite to the official Let's Legalize Wisconsin Green Christmas Party. So I'll get you details. We're working on that, but I think it'd be really neat just to, especially with how passionate and like lovey-dovey I get around Christmas. I'm really excited to try and get as many folks together in one spot. And hopefully a lot of sponsors and stuff will donate. And like, if I could, I'd give everybody a freaking bus. You know what I mean? Like, I want it to be cool. I want everyone to enjoy their time. And yeah, awesome. So you got the invite.
Well, thanks. I'm honored. Thank you.
All righty, buddy. All right, we'll let you get back to it. Thank you again, Andrew. Thank you, everybody, for stopping out. We'll let you get back to it, folks. We'll see you next week, Wednesday. Until then, we're out of here. All right, see you guys.
Bye-bye.